Hey guys, it's Tom here. Today I'm going to be talking about Wuthering Heights. It's directed by Andrea Arnold, written by Andrea Arnold, Olivia Hettried and Emily Bronte. She wrote the novel anyway. And it's starring Kaya Scodelario, James Howson, Shannon Beer and Solomon Glave. Andrea Arnold is a really interesting filmmaker, someone who I really respect. I think Fish Tank from a couple of years ago was a great film. I really enjoyed that film a lot. And so I was excited to see what she'd do with this adaptation. And she doesn't let me down in that sense. She does something really interesting with this film. I think a lot of filmmakers probably would have taken the source material, lifted passages straight from it and put it in the script, maybe put a narration over the top or a swelling strings score or something and made it very romantic. But Andrea Arnold really holds back and restrains herself. She essentially rips up the novel, strips back all the dialogue, there's hardly any dialogue in this film, and turns it into a visual piece. Now, I'm someone who complains quite a lot about film adaptations of books, and I feel like some filmmakers do try and make more of a literal carbon copy of the book, which is impossible, but Andrea Arnold really understands the fact that cinema is a visual medium, and so to do that, you have to really take the book and take the essence of it, put that in the film, rather than translate it straight across. The cinematography here is gorgeous. The way it's captured is just so beautiful. The lighting, the location, it's always windy and rainy and it feels so harsh, and there's just something so compelling about this environment. Unfortunately, I think Andrea Arnold really focuses on that so much that she forgets about the characters, and so the location turns into the main character of the story, really. But to see that location captured so wonderfully is really incredible. One thing about the cinematography though that I'm not quite so sure about is the 4:3 aspect ratio. It's just something that has been in a couple of films recently and I've not really understood it. I guess you could say it makes it more claustrophobic or old-fashioned and trying to capture that old-fashioned sense, but I don't think it really works here. It takes away more than it adds in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion though. I think if any of you have any opinions on that, please let me know and try and persuade me otherwise, but at the moment I'm not really sold on the 4:3 aspect ratio. Also, the soundtrack is really stripped back. There's hardly any score here at all. It's just really realistic. It's dealing with these characters and the location, and in that way it makes it completely unromantic. It's just completely realistic. It's right down there with these people. The fact that these characters are always so dirty, horrible, there's no soundtrack, it just makes it feel very realistic. And while there is a hell of a lot of stuff to admire here, it is a film I admired a lot. It ultimately fails, I think, because the characters aren't interesting. The acting, first of all, is just awful. I mean, Shannon Beer, who plays the young Kathy, is probably the only character who really comes across to me as realistic and someone who I was rooting for. She really captured that sense of a wild Kathy, someone who's really in tune with her environment, someone who is all about emotion. However, the other performances just didn't work for me at all. Solomon Glave, who plays the young Heathcliff, who is opposite Kathy, I don't think he captures that same essence that Shannon Beer does. He just feels like he's following her around, and when he does come into emotion and starts bashing his head against the wall, it still feels half-hearted. It doesn't feel realistic. I'm not rooting for him at all. Then when the older versions of Kathy and Heathcliff come in, played by Kaya Scodelario and James Howson, it just doesn't work at all. These characters have hardly been saying anything at all throughout the film. There's virtually no dialogue, and then when it comes to the end, there is a little bit more dialogue. It feels really forced, it feels really strained. There's just something so awkward about it, and maybe that's what Andrea Arnold was trying to portray. Maybe she was trying to get these actors to do something that felt a little bit more unnatural, make it a little bit more stiff because they're not used to talking in this way. But to me, it just came across as bad acting. And these two actors had absolutely no chemistry with each other whatsoever. Not for a second did I believe that they felt anything about each other. On a film like this, you need to buy that relationship, you need to root for it, and I didn't at all, and so it kind of just fundamentally fails on that level. And I've seen Kaya Scodelario in Skin, she's great in that, and I think she's a good actress. I just don't know what happened here. It kind of leads me to feel that Andrea Arnold might have been trying to force them to be forced and be awkward, and I can just imagine on the set they were delivering these lines perfectly, and I can just kind of imagine Andrea Arnold on the set telling these actors to be more forced and be more awkward. It kind of just feels like they're being directed to act like that. There's just something so strange about it. The whole thing gives me a sense that Andrea Arnold is trying to make something that is testing you, is trying to say, oh, you want a romantic version of Wuthering Heights, do you? Well, this is what you're going to get. This is what's going to happen. You're going to get a really stripped back, realist, awkward version of Wuthering Heights that doesn't feel at all like any of the previous adaptations, and in that sense I really commend her for that. So ultimately, I can't give this a very positive review because of that major problem with this film. I mean, you need to believe in these characters, but it's just that this film was just so interesting to me. It was doing something different, it was trying to be a bit more experimental and interesting, and so it's something that I have to commend for that. I would much rather see a film like this than than a film that's good but isn't really doing anything at all and ends up being quite boring. This film never bored me once. So I definitely recommend this film to anyone who enjoys experimental film, who wants to see something differently, but fundamentally I don't think this film works. It's just a really interesting thing to talk about. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, really close to a 2 out of 5, but still just in the 3 out of 5 because it's something that I appreciated. So whether you agree or disagree with anything I've said in this review, please leave a comment down below, I'll get back to you definitely, and like and subscribe to my video, that would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for watching.